A. I'm honored to be here with you all. Thank you for being here with my colleagues. And as you can see, Nasra Ahmed and her father is here with us, the family members that happened to the tragedy in St. Paul about a week ago.
Hello, my name is, excuse me.
Thank you. And over the last 2 weeks, my office has been receiving endless complaints from our community about civil rights violation on our streets and our community. We are hearing from U.S. citizens, parents, young people, and working family who say they have been stopped with no clarity cost and demanding to show their identity, whether they are citizens or whether they are here illegally or legally way in the state of Minnesota. Let me be clear, this is not a normal. It is unlawful and it's not public safety. It is intimidation, harassment, and it looks like racial profiling for those people, black and brown, that has been detained in St. Paul and the state of Minnesota. Many of you have seen the video that's circling online about Nasra Ahmed. Nasra Ahmed is 23 years old, U.S. citizen, born here in Minnesota, raised in Minnesota. She was unjustly arrested by ICE and detained for 2 days with no legal representation, with no giving a clear answer why she got arrested. Nasra just has been released, but she's not fine yet because she's shocked, devastated, traumatized, and she will never be the same until she got arrested. But what we experienced, it felt like a nightmare when I spoke with her, that she is not feeling the same person. She feels fear. She asked question herself whether she belonged in here or not, even though she was born in the United States of America. She has been harassed because the way she looks like, the way she dressed. It was easy target to pick up because she is Somali American, but they did not ask her whether she's, born here, and she's been saying it clearly that I am citizen, I am born here in America, never seen in the country. This bigger than one case. Every single person reporting this incident, it's a person of color. That's unacceptable. So today I'm saying clearly, this has to stop for the racial profiling that we've seen in our state of Minnesota. Targeting of black and brown community in Minnesota must end. No one should be treated like a criminal because of their skin color, because their name, because their accent, or the neighborhood that they live in. Because what ICE is doing, they're targeting Pacific community. They're targeting where immigrant people and people of color live in public housings. They're not targeting other individuals, but they're targeting for those people that does not look like them. Minnesota is better than this. We will not be silent. We will be demanding answer, and we will demand accountability for those people that's doing bad in our state. As a state legislator, and many of my colleagues here today, we will hold accountability for those hurting, for those people that, whether it's citizens or living in the state of Minnesota, we will be willing to protect. But now I would like to call Nasra Ahmed for her to testimony and say a few words.
Does this mic work?
Yeah, it works.
Hello.
You can sit back.
Okay, yeah, I just want to make sure.
Come a little closer.
Thank you. Thank you so
Great.
much. Hi, hello. I am very grateful to have this opportunity to speak in front of everyone, and thank you to my senator for representing me and the people behind me for representing me. I can never be more grateful than I am right now. I'm not used to the attention and the fame, unwanted fame that I am receiving right now. My image is out there, but It's an image for a reason. It's an image that I will carry for the rest of my life. And I am proud. I am proud to say that I've survived ICE. I'm proud to say that I stood up for what is right. And many people are saying, including my family and friends, that I will go down in history. And I will carry this on my shoulders, and I will carry it even though I am fearful. I am a bit anxious. I'm going to admit that I didn't expect this to happen, but here I am speaking in front of everyone, and there's cameras recording me. Hi, everyone who's watching me right now. My name is Nazra. It's nice to meet you guys. It's nice to meet everyone. I'm 23 years old. I'm from Minnesota. I also grew up in Columbus, Ohio, but I also grew up here, and I was also raised here. I was raised in both cities. Both are well-known Somali communities. So I'm Somali. I'm proud to be Somali. To me, being Somali isn't just eating bananas with rice. It's a lot. It's like it's an interesting thing. It's very hard to describe what it means to be Somali and what it means to be American. But it's like a cultural fusion. It's kind of like the bananas and rice. You know, people don't really see people don't think, oh, you can eat bananas with rice, but that's what it's like to be Somali and American. It's like that combination of banana and rice, but you're gonna get what I mean. So what I'm trying to say is people might be confused by me being Somali, but then when they hear my voice, they say, this girl is very American. There's something American about her. So like my family says, you're so American. You're so American. There's something American about you. But then when other people see me, they're like, there's something Somali about you. You're really Somali, you know? So that's what it's like. You know, people always trying to assume what you are, but they know you're both. So they cannot separate the two. They just want to say, oh, you're this, you're that. But that's what it is. It's to be both. So, so I got kidnapped by ICE. So now we're going to get into the story of what made me stand here today. So that story is I got kidnapped by ICE. So ICE came to my neighborhood, where my neighborhood is a very Somali neighborhood. It's a predominantly Somali neighborhood. There's many Somalis that live here. And they kidnapped me. They took me. They arrested and detained me for 2 days, and I was put in county jail. Then there was this ICE agent who called me a racial slur. So with my skin color and me being a black person, in America, I go through a lot. I see a lot. I've experienced a lot of things. I'm also Somali, and I'm gonna say right now that even though people see me as Somali, I'm still a black person, and I can't separate the two. My skin is still dark. I'm still a black person. And I'm just a black person of Somali descent. My ethnic origin is Somali, but I'm black. I'm a person who's black under America. So I still experience racism. I still experience many things that black Americans face. And the two can exist, and many people don't really realize that, because what they see, so Somalis that can't be black and they can't be, Somali, but that's not the case. So, so I was called a racial slur by this ICE agent, and this ICE agent was igniting racial violence towards me. He was inciting racial violence. He was targeting these two Somali men. They were following these two Somali men who ran out the car. And when they ran out the car, what happened was I was walking towards that area that these two men were holding the door for me, and I believe these men were Somali. I'm not sure if they were some other group, but like they were like a different East African descent, but they were what I've seen is that they were Somali. And so when they came, they were following these two men, and I was waiting for these two men to hold the door for me. And I told them, hey, can you hold the door for me? And I walked right in the middle. And when I was in the middle, ICE came. They came out of their cars. They asked me to see my ID. And while they were asking me to see the ID, they just decided it was nice to be racist and say really nasty things to me. And that man, he called me the N-word, and I'm going to say it's the book the word that's in the To Kill a Mockingbird. If you've ever read that book, it's the word that's in that book. And he called me that, and then he arrested me. They arrested me. It was multiple people. They used a lot of force to arrest me. I actually got a scab that was healing while I was in jail. But they pushed me hard. They used a lot of violence. My body still hurts. I got a concussion. It's really hard for me to speak because of that concussion. They were just using a lot of force to arrest me, and I was screaming. I was crying. I was so scared. I've never been arrested in my life. I don't have like a criminal record. I have a clean record. It was just, and then at detainment, I was detained. I was literal cuffs were put on my legs, cuffs on my hands, and during the detainment center is Whipple. It's in Fort Snelling. Fort Snelling used to be, historically, it used to be a concentration camp for Native Americans. And they were actually it was this Native American place where they detained, the concentration camp was, but the concentration camp was a place where they kept many Native Americans, and they marched those Native Americans and they killed them. They killed them, they murdered them, and it was named after Bishop Whipple, Henry Whipple, I believe. Hopefully I'm getting my facts correct, but that man was a bishop who actually spoke for Native Americans, and I was actually detained with a Native American woman. And God bless her heart, she went through a lot too. She was also detained by ICE, and she was also a U.S. citizen, and like me, and she had gashes on her face. They shattered her windows. She had blood on her jeans, her corduroy jeans, and she was crying because she was so scared because she was with her dog. She was so scared that her dog got hurt. She was so scared for her life. We were both crying together. We were holding each other tight, and I'll never forget the fear that we both felt in our hearts that day. And it's okay. You did enough, okay? Mm-hmm. Take a deep breath, okay? I'm so sorry if I'm getting a little emotional, but take some time. It's okay. You've done enough. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm so sorry. Let's take a break.
Yeah.
Let's bring it down.
We're just going to call her dad to say exactly what he knows so far.
I'm fine. I'm so sorry. You're fine. No.
Sorry, she got a little bit emotion, but I got emotion. My name is Muhammad Ahmed. I was born in Somalia. I'm raised, but I came here as an immigrant. But I'm U.S. citizen. It's not only her, but I got 7 other children with her, with 8. But what Nasra has been experienced is not supposed to be happening to anybody. It's not about whether it's a community of color, whether it's going to be. I just want to start it with, I want to send my condolences first, Renee, family, and everybody, because that way, we carry that feeling. It's not supposed to be happening to anybody. Being detained or being shot or being killed for ICE. I think what we have seen as American today everywhere, the image we've been seeing, we've been experiencing is a lot of traumatized. And that is not supposed to be happening here in America. Look like now what we have seen is it's not under control. It's not a control. It's kind of like violence people by brutalized and people by injured with eyes, and I think that image is not good. But I just want to say, I want to state that what happened, Nasra, it's not supposed to be happening to anybody, whether it's citizen or whether they're going to be here legally live in America, because I have seen a lot of fear created by ICE. People could not go to outside, do their own daily life. They cannot go to shop, they cannot go to work, because people got fear because of how ICE brutalize people, how they, treat, like a lot of mistreatment out there we haven't seen. The image we've seen is not good. But what happened, Nasra, was she was doing her own daily life. She went out, she came back. They sitting at the parking lot, the Afton View apartment. That's where they sitting. That's where they station. Even the other night, 9 o'clock, every night, 9 o'clock, they've been sitting, waiting people to be victimized. That's how they do. They ask about the ID. If the person refuses, jump onto them, then detain, put in the van or whatever the car, take it to the jail. But what happened, Nasra, was not supposed to be happening. And they ask about her identity. What she stated, I wasn't there, but what she stated, she provided to them. But they're not satisfied because how she looked. Then they tried to detain, maybe she resisted, I'm not sure. I wasn't there, but the video is there. When she resisted, they arrested anyway. They put her in jail, I could not find her. The word is spread around the community, be detained. I'm not sure where to follow. The also other issue, the other problem I've been raising today, and the people in America can hear is, they don't have a place to call, even if they detain anybody. It's like, if you be like in the middle of nowhere. Then I talked to Samakab. I'm glad everybody here today. I'm so appreciative. I mean, I talked to representative of Samakab. Then he's the one who helping me out, where to find. And that's where we locate. That's when we located. She's in jail of, I think it was Shelburne County Jail. That's where she located. That's where they put her. They kept her 2 days. They released her. But when she got home, we saw it. She got injured. She got a head concussion. She also got some other bruises on her legs. And she's still feeling like, the way they handcuff, she's still feeling like her hands pain. She got back pain too. Also two or three guys on the top for her. We have that video too. It's out there. People can see it. And that's what happened. And I'm glad all of you here today to listen to what we're saying. And I appreciate if you guys come through and take to our words and show to the American people what is going on is not right thing. Thank you.
Thank you, Appa. Senator, would you like to speak, or do I carry on?
No, thank you. Thank you. You did a good job.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Representative Maria Isa Perez Vega. I represent District 65B of our capital city of St. Paul and the suburb of West St. Paul. I'm also the chair of our St. Paul State House delegation, where this is taking place into a citizen of St. Paul. I'm here to discuss legislation that my colleagues in support of our St. Paul delegation with Representative, our vice chair of our delegation, Representative Hussein, as well as member of our St. Paul delegation, our chair of Veterans Committee, Representative Jay Zhang of the East Side, and as well as our suburbs within the Ramsey County delegation, Representative Peter Fisher, and Representative of St. Paul delegation as well, Representative Lee Finke, on drafting legislation to support funding to be allocated towards St. Paul and Ramsey County family behavioral services for those those who have experienced harassment and maltreatment due to the federal agents' surge in what we've experienced, what we have seen that Nazra has experienced and is now have to live with those scars for the rest of her life. We also have been drafting language to be supportive to those children who are of DOPA, have filed for DOPA and are no longer with their parents and guardians, that is separating what we see every day, that is our federal agents getting the enablement of hatred through the support of hatred to divide families. This is what's happening in our capital city. This is what's happening throughout our state. I was here earlier with many similar colleagues that are behind me discussing why we are asking the demands of ICE out. We've heard yesterday in a press conference with several law enforcement from different districts that are represented here and outside of the capital city saying that ICE is not keeping our community safer. Our communities are actually experiencing violence, kidnappings, abductions. It's happening where we can't say we're working on things here at the state day by day. We're working on these issues hour by the hour. We have fellow electeds here from our capital city, from our council members. We have folks that have been working directly with rapid response groups of people that have been legally observing. We have teachers that are demanding the support of help because they are now not only doing the curriculums that we've been passing to have great education or safe for our littlest learners to our higher ed learners that are saying we need support because this is crucial. This is trauma that is not ever going to leave this young woman for the rest of her life. And we as electeds and as legislators are engaged to support the necessities of healthcare, mental health care, physical health care, emotional support, spiritual, because we've heard from faith leaders that are asking this must stop. So with that, I just want to thank everyone for taking the time and the leadership. I see Representative Pinto of our workforce because we know how scared people are to go to work, whether they're from our immigrant neighbors to citizens, and the effects that that's having on our workforce and our economy. So I just want to say thank you to those who have made time to be here to hear her story. It's challenging. Grace is what's needed for this young woman and the many who are not here to share their stories, who are too scared to share their stories, that are citizens, that are being abducted on their way to walk to church, go to school, go grocery shopping to the stores that are no longer able to keep their businesses open. We need peace. And we're coming here with peace. We're asking for solidarity to make things right and really, truly make Minnesota safe again. Thank you.
Kids are great.
I would like to also echo that what happened to Nasra, not only, but I've been getting a lot of other calls. The individuals that has been taken from Minnesota and taken to Fort Snelling and then transferring to Houston, Texas. And then they find out they are legal here to stay United States, and they take their belongings and they let them go with no cell phone, with no identifications, and in the street of Texas. State that they have never seen, never been. And this has to be end. It's unacceptable. It's kidnapping for those people that here legally. We're not defending for those people that, does something wrong or, get into, but we protecting for those individuals that are here, that live in, they are our neighborhoods, they are our co-workers, they are making difference in the state of Minnesota. This is hurting our economy. And as Representative Vega said, we have to have a peace. And it's enough. Have you seen a lot of people are protesting because they are demanding for justice?
Thank you.
Thank you.
At this time, we'd like to open up for any questions that the press and public may have. But not for Nazra, out of due respect for her emotional well-being.
There was a federal order Friday saying that ICE can no longer use chemical irritants, can no longer do traffic stops, a bunch of stuff seemingly curtailing what ICE agents can do. Have any of you noticed any change in how ICE agents have behaved since that order?
Sorry, excuse me. I guess I didn't see that.
Good afternoon, State Representative Mahmoud Noor. I think you've heard from my colleagues. We are seeing violation of the order from the judge. As I speak with you right now, a gentleman from St. Cloud was pulled from his car, who is a U.S. citizen. I do have his documentation. I've seen the video. I know that he was pulled from a car that he was driving on the streets without any targeted process. So ICE is violating what the orders of the judge as I speak to you. They're doing many things right now in South Minneapolis as we speak. We have to follow the rules. We have to follow things that are established through the legal system. We have that separation that needs to be respected. And I can tell you that, no, they're not respecting the order that came from the judge.
What further action could you take then, maybe, if they're not following this?
Representative Dave Pinto from St. Paul. We're aware that there are a series of lawsuits relating to the actions of ICE in our state, and we will have. And I know that the judge, that same judge who issued the order on Friday, is receiving information, or future orders and further orders are expected. So I'll say also, though, it's important that we all, as the people of Minnesota, recognize experiences like what Nusra experienced and others as well, and make it clear to everyone involved that that is completely unacceptable in our state and in our country. Unacceptable, full stop. Thank you.
It sounds like we're hearing story after story of American citizens being detained. That doesn't seem to be something that ICE is at least publicly keeping track of from a data perspective. Is anyone within the Capitol or anything along those lines trying to keep a comprehensive list?
I spoke with our county attorney, our Ramsey County Attorney John Choi this morning, who has expressed, call 911, report to your police, create documentation so that it is filed, so that we can have that data and that we can utilize that data to continue to protect our state. And so please don't eliminate from calling 911. You contact 911. And our Attorney General has some messages that Representative Noor can address as well.
So there's a portal that has already been created by the Attorney General, and so we are asking anybody whose rights, their constitutional rights, have been violated, they need to do that documentation by uploading the information that they have to that portal.
There's a lot of balances that is scared to come out. And some of them, they can't afford to go to work, and they can't afford to pay their rent now, and the month is over. So is there somebody can help them, or you guys, anything that you guys prepared to help those people because they're scared to go out?
Hello, everyone. Anika Bowie, St. Paul City Council, Ward 1. So today, during our City Council meeting, the Council has committed to passing a letter to Governor Walz to actually mandate put into effect a moratorium on evictions. We all know that in the midst of this crisis, it's so hard for our landlords and our tenants to even think about rent, think about going to school, thinking about going to work, how to make ends meet. We also are going to be following up with some emergency assistance to help with businesses and also help people with payroll because that's so important. We all know with this times we need a strong economic security blanket to help our loved ones get through.
I know a thing or two about defenders.
Kid, I actually saw this terrible story while I was coming to Minneapolis. We just left Toledo, Ohio this morning for an economic message event. And I see this story, and I'm a father of a 5-year-old, actually, a 5-year-old little boy. And I think to myself, oh my God, this is terrible. How did we arrest a 5-year-old? Well, I do a little bit more follow-up research. And what I find is that the 5-year-old was not arrested, that his dad was an illegal alien. And then when they went to arrest his illegal alien father, the father ran. So the story is that ICE detained a 5-year-old. Well, what are they supposed to do? Are they supposed to let a 5-year-old child freeze to death? Are they not supposed to arrest an illegal alien in the United States of America? If the argument is that you can't arrest people who have violated our laws because they have children, then every single parent is going to be completely given immunity from ever being the subject of law enforcement. That doesn't make any sense. No one thinks that makes any sense. Now, there's so many of these cases like that where if you just understand the context, there have been a number of situations that I've looked into personally where I say, wait a second, we don't want ICE arresting American citizens. They're supposed to be enforcing the immigration laws against illegal aliens. So then I look into it and I find out that the American citizen who was arrested took a swing at an ICE officer. You can't have that happen. And of course they have to defend themselves. And of course they have the right to detain somebody who assaults a law enforcement officer. Now, this is my point. Do we want these things to happen? Do we want these arrests to be so chaotic? No, we don't. These guys want it least of all. But if we had a little cooperation from local and from local and state officials, I think the chaos would go way down.
Shut the fuck up, you jacked up bootlicker.
About what I am here to do, which is federal law enforcement to enforce our immigration laws. I want to say just a few things. First of all, I wanted to meet with business leaders, with ICE officers, with local law enforcement to try to understand a little bit better what's going on so that we can tone down the temperature a little bit, reduce the chaos, but still allow us as a federal government to enforce the American people's immigration laws. That is the purpose of my visit. Now, this is step one or step two of that process. There's going to be a lot of work that follows through from here. I'm happy to talk about that, but I think I learned a few things that were very important. So number one of the things I learned is that the guys behind me are doing an incredible job, and frankly, a lot of the media is lying about the job that they do every single day. Now, it doesn't mean that there aren't occasionally stories out there, there aren't occasionally videos out there that suggest that these guys, or at least some of the people who work for them, are not doing everything right. But very often, if you look at the context of what's going on, you understand that these people are under an incredible amount of duress, an incredible amount of chaos, and because of a few very far left agitators, a lot of these guys are unable to do their jobs without being harassed, without being doxxed, and sometimes without being assaulted. That's totally unacceptable. And that's one of the things that I want to send a message to is, yes, come out and protest me, protest our immigration policy, but do it peacefully. If you assault a law enforcement officer, the Trump administration and the Department of Justice is going to prosecute you to the fullest extent of the law. And I wanted to show some support for these guys who, frankly, are operating in a very, very tough environment. I heard a lot of stories today about that I think drives home just how chaotic the environment on the ground here has already got.
Here we go.
So it sounds like J.D. Vance is taking a whole lot of my talking points, but not all of them. He said, quote, come out and protest, but do it peacefully. That sounds exactly like what I've been saying since the very first moments following the shooting of Renee Good. Protest peacefully, but don't take the bait. Don't counter the chaos of Donald Trump with our own brand of chaos here. And so to the extent he's telling people to protest peacefully, we're in agreement. Second, and quote, we want to enforce the laws on one hand, while on the other making sure people in Minneapolis are able to go about their day. It sounds a lot to me like he wants to be mayor of the city, only he's only been here for 2 hours, whereas we in this city have been working through these issues and this chaos for the last several weeks. Peace is not spraying irritants and chemicals at peaceful protesters. It's not detaining a 5-year-old. It's not dragging a pregnant woman through the streets. You achieve peace by working directly with communities. You lower crime by strategically going after people that have committed it. The vice president said he would love to be able to send some of these agents home. You know, there's no disagreement there. We've been encouraging that for weeks. You heard me say it 2 weeks ago, and I've been saying it every single day since. If you're looking for an antidote to many of the issues that we have faced over the last several weeks, there's a very easy answer. And it's for this huge influx of federal agents, ICE and Border Control, to go home. And finally, he said if we had a little cooperation, we'd be able to keep streets safe. Once again, we agree. We have extensively worked with federal agencies under both Democratic and Republican administrations. We've worked with the DEA and the FBI. We've worked with the ATF and the U.S. Attorney's Office to successfully drive down crime in Minneapolis, and we've done so by strategically focusing on people that have actually committed serious and violent crimes. So what's changed? What's changed is the response that we're seeing. What's changed is that we have 3,000 plus ICE agents and border control that are on our streets without a clear plan. What's changed is we've got this huge influx of what feels like an occupation in a city in the upper Midwest. And what's changed is that they are arresting United States citizens. They are detaining people that have done nothing wrong. They're going after people exclusively based on the fact that they look like they're Somali or they look like they are Latino, and no reason beyond that. They've stopped law enforcement officers that are off duty. They've stopped fathers that are on their way just to drop off their kids. There are incredible people in our city that have come from a variety of different places around the country and around the globe. And they've made our city a better place. They're part of our family. We love them. We're proud to have them here. So I get that they've got a messaging challenge here, and it's predominantly because anybody can see with their own two eyes what's going on. You can't say with a straight face that pulling citizens off the street or going into a school is a targeted action when clearly it's not.
Yeah, they're barging in.
Clearly, what we are seeing on our streets right now is discriminating only on the basis of race and largely indiscriminate thereafter. In Minneapolis, we want to solve crime. We want to arrest murderers. Let's do it. Let's work together to drive down crime. Again, this is not that. We have had relationships with a number of federal administrations to successfully drive down crime. What we are seeing is this is more about political retaliation. This is more about tragically terrorizing people than it is about safety, than it is even about immigration.
It's all about political and gender.
The job of law enforcement is to keep the peace, to keep Americans safe, and that is literally what I signed up to do and what the federal government signed up to do as well, and I urge that they do exactly that. With that, I'll answer any questions you might have.
Salesforce is incredibly important.
Great. Earlier today, Vice President Vance, had said that you're not being cooperative. You had implied that there had been some order to prevent local police from responding to federal agents. Can you comment on that? Has any local official told police not support agents?
What Vice President J.D. Vance is saying is he's rhetorically asking what makes Minneapolis different. What makes Minneapolis different is that we have an influx of 3,000 federal agents on our street, and we're not the size of New York City or Los Angeles. What makes us different is we're seeing constitutional violations play out in real time. What makes us different is, yes, we do have residents that are beautifully standing up, supporting their neighbors, providing food, escorting them to their jobs, recording some of the unconstitutional acts that are taking place to make sure that some sunlight is added as a disinfectant to some of the chaos that is being caused. And to your question, we have a separation ordinance, which is widely publicized as nothing new. We had one well before this operation started taking place, and that separation ordinance says that our police officers and public officials do not work with any federal agency around immigration enforcement work specifically. We do work with federal agencies to catch murderers. And so if they want to catch murderers, that's what we're for. And it doesn't matter if they're from Minneapolis, Chicago, Venezuela, Germany. It doesn't matter where the murderer is from. We're getting them because they're a murderer, not based on where they grew up. That's the way this should have worked in America. What our separation ordinance also says, and I say this to everybody throughout the city, is that We will not ask the question in Minneapolis as to whether a person is documented or not. Why? Because when you call 911, we want everybody to know that our first and primary concern is not your papers, but it's your safety. That's what we are focused on. Now, our police officers respond to any instance where they can help keep people safe. We have responded. We have arrested people. You've seen it. You can report it. Where safety has been compromised, our officers have stepped in to help. But I'll tell you exactly what I want our officers doing. We got 600 of them. They got limited time. I want them focusing their energies on investigating crime, on keeping people safe, on preventing carjackings and homicides. I don't want them spending time hunting down a guy, a dad, who has done nothing wrong, who just dropped his kids off at daycare, who's about to go work a 12-hour shift. That guy makes our city a better place.
Mayor, your reaction to J.D. Vance saying that the military is not needed here in the state?
Yeah, totally. So my reaction to J.D. Vance saying that the military is not needed in our state, yeah, wildly agree.
Mayor Fry, what would improved communication with federal authorities look like to you?
Well, so the question is, what would improved communication with federal authorities look like to me? Give me a call. You know, if J.D. Vance could feel free to reach out. We didn't get an invite, maybe unsurprisingly, to hang out while he was in town. We have done a whole lot of work through a number of different channels, including the channel of an email to seek an audience to try to figure out how we can stop this from happening and how we can keep our city safe. Again, I want to be really clear here. There is a route forward if we're all willing to see it. If their goal is to keep Minneapolis safe from criminals that are doing bad things, we agree. Regardless of where those criminals are from, we want to make sure that they are held accountable and that we're able to keep our city safe. And so there's broad agreement around that. For all these other people, though, that have done nothing wrong, that are these wonderful members of our community, why not a path to citizenship for them? That makes all the sense in the world to me.
Mayor, what do you make of the Vice President meeting with Republican state lawmakers and neither you or the governor?
So the question was, what do I make of the Vice President Vance meeting with Republican lawmakers, but not me nor the governor? I mean, the question that I have is, again, is this political performance that is taking place in our city that is compromising our safety? Or is this trying to achieve an end goal that is improving safety in Minneapolis? Is this political performance? Is this partisan politics? Is this loving your ideology more than you love your country? Or is this trying to get something done for the sake of the American people and for the sake of the people of Minneapolis? I appreciate, the Vice President said a couple nice things about the beautiful city that we have. And I agree, we have one. It's incredible. I'm so inspired by the people here in our city. And look, we got to find every possible way right now, again, as he said, to end this large-scale deployment and send these agents home.
One more question.
Is there any room for compromise between the city and ICE?
The question was, is there room for compromise? Look, I'll work with anybody that is willing to work in good faith with me.
Do you want to comment on the Levy Armstrong's arrest?
Yeah, so I want to comment on Nikema Levy Armstrong's arrest. It's a gross abuse of power, and she should immediately be released.
Mayor Fry, really quickly.
I'll do one more, and then I'm going to get going.
Vice President Vance said if there's cooperation between state and local officials, these many ICE agents would not be needed to carry out enforcement operations. What's your response to that? Is that something you're open to
that open line of communication to get these thousands of ICE agents out of the city?
Well, you don't need to. So the question is the room for cooperation between the federal government and the state or in the city. You don't need to take my word for it. You can see it in the numbers coming straight out of corrections, which is a state agency, in the way that they have worked together. You don't need to take my word for it. You can see it in the numbers where we've successfully driven down shootings on the north side to a record low by working with federal agents in the U.S. Attorney's Office and our police officers that are, by the way, working tirelessly to arrest perpetrators of violent crime. So, look, we have done that. But again, I need to be really clear. That is not this. If this were about getting murderers, we would be able to do that. The number one question that we ask when we're trying to get a murderer is, are you a murderer? Is this a murderer? Not, where are you from? Where are you from is not the point here. The point is there a crime, a violent crime that has been committed? And of course, we've partnered extensively on that front. And so, again, let's just be really clear. Let's be really straightforward. I deeply appreciate all the work that the press has done just to uncover the facts and the truth so that we're not, like, talking by one another. I'm grateful to all of you, and thank you so much.
Dollar Shave Club just created dangerous crowds every day of this surge, and sometimes they need to resort to force.
Courts have tried to put boundaries on how the government handles protests and arrests. Fox 9's Corin Hoggard shows us how the rules change, and one boundary ICE is not following.
Border Patrol Chief Greg Bovino says a crowd of people followed him and his agents for most of the day Wednesday. He says they got violent at his last stop, so agents threw chemical munitions to clear the way. A federal judge ruled last week that ICE could not use things like tear gas and pepper spray on peaceful protesters. Another judge put that ruling on hold just before this incident in the East Isles neighborhood, but Bovino says it didn't change their approach.
We follow the law. When we utilize less lethal munitions or any use of force, it's called the minimum use of force necessary to either effect an arrest and or accomplish a mission. So we did that.
The bigger clash with the courts seems to be a policy that ICE can force entry into homes without a judicial warrant, as they did at Garrison Gibson's house almost 2 weeks ago.
First off, we don't break into anybody's homes. We make entry in either a hot pursuit with a criminal arrest warrant or an administrative arrest warrant. The thing to remember is these administrative arrest warrants have been deemed justified by courts.
Administrative warrants are not reviewed by judges, only ICE supervisors. For decades, courts have consistently ruled the government cannot use them to forcefully enter homes. But federal agents did it again just before detaining a barely clothed U.S. citizen 2 days after a judge told them it was unconstitutional in Gibson's case.
It goes against an enormous body of constitutional law and judicial rulings, including by the Supreme Court, that are unequivocally clear that you need a judicial warrant.
Everyday citizens really don't have much in the way of immediate recourse if the government enters their home without a warrant, but they can file lawsuits like Mr. Gibson did, and the state attorney general's office is collecting details from warrantless entries with the possibility of filing a class action lawsuit at the Capitol.
A 5-year-old boy who was in ICE custody in Columbia Heights continued to cause some powerful outrage.
And we now know where that boy is and what led up to him being taken by federal agents. Our Maury Glover joins us now. And Maury, district officials and the vice president have really opposing views about what happened. Walk us through it.
Well, the vice president says federal agents had no choice but to take the boy after detaining his father. But district officials who were on the scene tell a different story. This picture of Liam Ramos being detained by ICE is sparking a war of words over what really happened to the 5-year-old student at Lakeview Elementary School in Columbia Heights. Witnesses say the boy was taken into custody along with his father in their driveway after arriving home from preschool on Tuesday, and that federal agents tried to use Liam as bait to get his mother, who was inside the home, to let them in.
Mom was there. She saw out the window and Dad was yelling, "Please do not open the door."
But DHS officials say Liam wasn't being targeted by ICE and that his father abandoned him while trying to get away from federal agents.
And then when they went to arrest his illegal alien father, the father ran. So the story is that ICE detained a 5-year-old. Well, what are they supposed to do? Are they supposed to let a 5-year-old child freeze to death?
An attorney says Liam and his father entered the U.S. lawfully from Ecuador in 2024 and have a pending asylum case. He says Liam's father doesn't have a criminal record in Minnesota, and he believes the two are being held together at a federal facility in San Antonio, Texas.
The fear that was generated, the terrorizing of the children and the community, that's just horrifying.
District officials say Liam is one of 4 children from Columbia Heights who've been taken by ICE over the last few weeks. And witnesses who were there dispute DHS's version of events, saying there were plenty of adults around who could have taken care of Liam instead of taking him to a detention center.
The onslaught of ICE activity in our community is inducing trauma and is taking a toll on our children, taking a toll on our families, our staff, our community members.
Now, the attorney for Liam's family hasn't had a chance to speak with them in Texas yet, but he says he's reviewing several legal options to get them out.
A large protest and rally outside of MSP International, just a big show as part of this day of action. And I just saw some video online posted by Faith in Minnesota, the organization that was running this protest this morning. So Leo, if we could take the producer.
And also, just if you see the bottom of your screen, there's also saying that group 100 Minnesota clergy have been arrested in this. So go ahead.
Yes. So this is the same group reporting that 100 clergy members have been arrested, just sharing this video of the arrest this morning. They're saying that the clergy members were arrested by MSP police and facility and Bloomington police. Kara did reach out to Bloomington police for us, who is referring us back to airport police. So we've also reached out to them, of course, and we have not heard anything back yet at this time. But you can clearly see law enforcement officers out there lining up people who were at that protest and taking them away. So I want to kind of let people see for themselves what this looked like before the arrests began. So Leo, if we could play the video in C9 here. This was what it looked like when our photographer was out there. This was more towards the beginning of that protest and rally. Busy, but peaceful, right? There were concerns, of course, about this protest and rally kind of blocking up and congesting traffic at the airport and slowing down operations, which, of course, if you ask the protesters, is the point. So they're out here protesting ICE. Of course, they say that about 2,000 people have been deported through MSP since operations really began to kick up here across the Twin Cities, Amy.
Yeah, and also just to clarify too, when the group says that it was Bloomington PD and then MSP, we're not talking about Minneapolis PD, we're talking about the airport, I believe is what we're talking about, not MPD. Sometimes we say MSP is Minneapolis, but airport police, and then we're saying that it sounds like we've reached out and Bloomington PD is saying, talk to the airport authorities about this, so we're kind of just waiting to hear on that as well. Okay, great, thank you for that update. And then also we know that, do you want to talk about the Whipple building?
Yeah, just really quick, want to touch on that before we squeeze in another break.
Let's do that. So we also know there was some activity there earlier.
This was the video from earlier.
Yeah, so this was, I don't remember exactly what time this was, Amber, but this was probably around
10:30.
Yeah, 10:30, 11, somewhere in there. And we know that at some time, we think before this, because when federal officials were speaking at 10 a.m., toward the end of their press conference, they were getting some information in real time about some disturbances outside of the Whipple building. He even was mentioning it. He was kind of play-by-playing it, and he said, we will not tolerate that. And then we have this video. But we also heard from the Hennepin County Sheriff's Office as well. And I don't want to paraphrase too much here. Do you have it in front of you? Okay.
Yep. So the Hennepin County Sheriff's Office tweeted at about noon today, saying that deputies and members of multiple assisting agencies have given dispersal orders for an unlawful protest at the Whipple building.
building. Deputies have been on the ground for the last few hours and made several attempts to ask protesters to unblock an access road. The group was clear that they will not unblock the road. Deputies have explained what will happen if they do not comply with the lawful orders. We've given them time to move. There have been ice chunks thrown at multiple vehicles, breaking windows. Deputies have given 3 dispersal orders for an unlawful protests. Individuals who do not comply with orders and those who continue unlawful behavior have been and will continue to be arrested. Please avoid the area. That was, again, posted around noon. I've been checking the account for any further updates, and at this time, I'm not seeing anything, Amy. Our camera out there still not up at the protest line or where the protest line was earlier. So I don't have eyes on it at this moment, but yeah, you're hearing it here from Hennepin County Sheriff's Office that they are arresting protesters for unlawful protests outside of Whipple.
Okay, and it's something to keep in mind too as folks maybe getting ready to march or rally today. I haven't heard word of really any sort of formal protest. Obviously, there's the overarching theme here, but just kind of thinking about some of the things that are happening here, where local law enforcement now we're seeing, in this case, Hennepin County Sheriff's Office is overlapping and coming in to arrest protesters after, according to the Sheriff's Office, they gave warnings, and so we're starting to kind of see that overlap a little bit more now that we haven't really seen a whole lot of here between the federal authorities and the local authorities on the ground, unless it's sort of a more extreme situation where it's violent, like we've seen the Minneapolis.
Feeling the squeeze.
Blackout taking place in downtown Minneapolis.
In fact, thousands upon thousands attending a rally in March demanding an end on the ICE metro surge. Rob Olson has been there all day, and he joins us now in the middle of it all there at Target Center. Rob.
Yeah, and an hour now into this rally at Target Center, capping a long afternoon with a march and rally. Now hearing some personal stories from people who've had interactions with ICE. This is an Uber driver who had a viral video about his interactions in the Uber lot near MSP Airport. This rally, though, kicking off with words from Twin Cities faith leaders.
And the more we stay close to God and one another, we will have the victory. So today, let God arise in justice. Let God arise through unity. Let God arise in peace. Let God arise in love. And let God arise in the people of Minnesota who refuse to be divided. And let God arise and get ICE out of Minnesota.
Yeah, that got the crowd going here at Target Center, which was about maybe half to three-quarters full here at the start of this rally, but far more people out in the streets. Organizers here say their estimate was 50,000. No official confirmation of those numbers from Minneapolis police at this point, but I can tell you it was far more people marching than would fit into Target Center. A huge rally, ICE out rally that started at U.S. Bank Stadium to Target Center, where I was parked. It took about 90 minutes from the start of the rally, or start of the march, to the end of the march going by me. A bitterly cold day to be out there, about -9 for many of these folks, marching through downtown, wearing everything they could to keep warm. And I asked them about the turnout, considering the temperature. Here's what they had to say.
It's paramount to democracy. It really just shows that what's going on is not okay, and it really needs to stop.
This is how people feel. They need to leave. We need to restore Minneapolis, or Minnesota in general. This is not just Minneapolis. People need to know that.
I thought it would be this big. I did. I know there's just a lot of emotion out there. You know, everyone's being peaceful, and we just want to find a good outlet out here and just express, our frustration with the current situation. So.
Yeah, that last man there handing out coffee and hand warmers to the crowd, which certainly there were a lot of takers for that in the cold. We saw crowds gathering an hour before the march even began. So a considerable amount of people that were out there for a considerable amount of time. Very loud. Minneapolis police said traffic control out there. Otherwise, a peaceful march, again, from one side of downtown to the other, culminating this event at Target Center in Minneapolis, Rob.
Turned out in downtown Minneapolis to call for an end to Operation Metro Surge. This while hundreds of businesses shuttered their doors in solidarity with protesters. Maury Glover has more on the mission behind the march.
On one of the coldest days of the year,
it's paramount to democracy. It really just shows that what's going on is not okay, and it really needs to stop.
Some Minnesotans braved the frigid temperatures.
This is how people feel. They need to leave. We need to restore Minneapolis, or Minnesota in general. This is not just Minneapolis. People need to know that.
To push ICE out of Minnesota.
I thought it would be this big. I did. I know there's just a lot of emotion out there. You know, everyone's being peaceful, and we just want to find a good outlet out here and just express, our frustration with the current situation.
Thousands of peaceful protesters marched through downtown Minneapolis to the Target Center for a rally to voice their displeasure with the ongoing immigration crackdown.
And the more we stay close to God and one another, we will have the victory. So today, let God arise in justice. Let God arise through unity.
Hundreds of shops, restaurants, and cultural institutions also closed in solidarity with what organizers called a day of truth and freedom, while others stayed open and donated some or all of their proceeds to organizations helping people affected by the ICE enforcement actions.
Say it once, say it twice. We will not put up with ICE.
Organizers believe 50,000 marchers took part in the event, and many more participated in the economic blackout, all in an effort to give ICE the ultimate cold shoulder.
An attack on one is an attack on all of us, and we will not stop until our family is whole again.
Maury Glover, Fox 9.
Federal authorities are in the final minutes until they have to release a toddler and his father. Yesterday, agents took a 2-year-old girl into custody. The toddler and her father were detained during a traffic stop in Minneapolis. A federal judge gave ICE until 9:30 tonight to release the little girl. An emergency filing by the family's attorney cites asylum claims and a warrantless arrest. The family is from Ecuador. Earlier today, federal officials who have been in Minnesota gave an update during Operation Metro Surge. Border Patrol Commander-at-Large Greg Bovino and a top ICE official Marcos Charles discussed different topics. They also gave an update on what they say happened when they took in that 5-year-old boy.
When officers approached Conejo Arias, he and his child were in a vehicle. Arias fled from law enforcement on foot, abandoning his child in the middle of winter in a vehicle. One of our officers stayed behind with that child while other officers apprehended his father. After conducting the arrest, my officers stayed with the child. They cared for him, took him to get something to eat from a drive-through restaurant, and spent hours ensuring he was taken care of.
Now, the boy and his father are currently at a family residential center. Meanwhile, the New York Times is reporting a supervisor in the FBI's Minneapolis office has resigned after pressure to drop a civil rights inquiry into Renee Good's shooting death. 2 people familiar with the matter say Tracy Mergen left her job after leaders in Washington told her to stop investigating Jonathan Ross. The Justice Department says it will not pursue an excessive force investigation into Ross. Instead, they are investigating Renee Good and her partner. Federal immigration agents continue to blame jails in Minnesota for releasing the worst of the worst offenders targeted by ICE. And they were blaming prisons until this week. But the Department of Corrections Commissioner pushed back hard on those claims this week, proving prison inmates with immigration detainers are being released directly to ICE. And ICE did acknowledge that. But the Fox 9 investigators also learned many people recently detained by ICE either haven't been behind bars for several years or never served time in Minnesota at all. DHS says these are the worst of the worst recently detained as part of Operation Metro Surge. The agency claiming without evidence that ICE agents are picking them up only because jails and prisons in Minnesota are letting them go instead of handing them over for deportation.
If you want us off your streets, let us in your jails.
That was Representative Tom Emmer on Fox 9 all day this week, repeating a common talking point from the Trump administration.
We've never had a cooperative arrangement with law enforcement here.
DHS often points to this man as proof, who is facing charges for criminal vehicular homicide. He was detained by ICE last summer after being released twice by the Hennepin County Jail. But state court records appear to undercut claims that hundreds of people detained by ICE were recently released from custody.
Several have no Minnesota court or prison records whatsoever.
Many of those who do have criminal records in Minnesota haven't been behind bars in several years.
Now, some Minnesota sheriffs are being thrown under the bus.
The Fox 9 investigators reviewed court records of nearly 36 people highlighted by DHS. Only 4 spent time in a county jail in the past year.
Facts matter. So in the interest of transparency, Minnesota will continue to correct the record as long as DHS continues to distribute false information.
This week, DOC Commissioner Paul Schnell also debunked claims that Minnesota prisons are ignoring ICE detainers. Schnell provided video evidence showing the exact dates and times that inmates were turned over to ICE.
An ICE officer arrived at our prison, and we allowed them into the Sally Port, where they took custody of both individuals.
Now, ultimately this week, both the vice president and ICE recognized that prisons are not the issue and that the DOC does, in fact, cooperate.
The Department of Corrections for the state of Minnesota does cooperate. They hand people over at the end of their sentence, and we take them into custody. The numbers that we put out aren't, when I say the state of Minnesota, I'm not talking about just the Department of Corrections. I'm talking throughout the state, counties, any municipalities that may be holding people.
In Minnesota, prisons are operated by the state and hold offenders convicted of serious or violent crimes who are serving lengthy sentences. Jails are run by county sheriff's departments and typically hold people awaiting trial or serving sentences of less than a year. Some jails, like Hennepin County, will not hold someone for ICE without a judicial warrant. Fox 9 News will be right back.
Okay, everybody, listen up. We have a problem.
We'll be right back.
City if the federal government remains here with this ICE presence for months on end?
Oh, well, look, I'm not going to predict the future as to how we will handle individual situations that haven't had yet, but our city stands rock solid. We stand rock solid in support of the people who we love, and I'll tell you, I'm inspired. I am inspired by the tens of thousands of people that have peacefully protested, inspired by people that are, escorting their neighbors to get groceries that are otherwise terrified to go outside. I'm inspired by people that are, taking a watch outside of a daycare and just looking out for each other. And that in and of itself is so beautifully Minneapolis.
Schools and small businesses all across the state are closed. The economic blackout, as it's called, is a protest against ICE that also included a huge march to the Target Center. And that's where our Jessica Hart joins us now live with the latest from there. Jess?
Jennifer, this rally is still going on, but the crowd has thinned significantly from when it started an hour ago. But before people were able to find their seats in here, they took to the streets. Even in the freezing cold.
Us Minnesotans, we're built for this.
Minnesotans find warmth in each other.
We can be a little cold for standing up for our community.
Kevin Springer is one of thousands who showed up to protest ICE operations.
This is one way that you can physically show up in a safe space that's peaceful, that's community driven, and it is a space that's filled with hope.
Organizers are calling this a day of truth and freedom. A statewide call to action asking people to peacefully protest and avoid shopping, working, or going to school.
We're going to support our neighbors no matter what.
It's easy to go down a dark tunnel, and this feels good.
In downtown Minneapolis, they marched from common parks.
It's so important to show up, and every single person matters.
To Target Center.
It's cold outside, but our community warmed us up. We have a lot of love, and we're happy to be here.
A warm place to end their cold march. An arena filled with people who share the same heart.
Proud to be a third generation.
Now, the program included a number of speakers from people who've had direct confrontations with ICE, the family members who had loved ones detained. Back to you.
Jessica. This long week. We live in a time where almost everything is documented. We all have phones to capture events, altercations, and arresting moments in time. In a moment of an arrest, a photograph was captured this week that's just impossible to look away from. That's Liam. 5-year-old Liam at the end of his snowy driveway, just home from preschool, still carrying his backpack, still wearing his bunny hat, being handled in the back by an ICE agent. The feds say he was abandoned there by his father, who was trying to evade capture. Liam's school district said he was used as bait to lure family outside for more immigration captures. Whichever of those statements are true, or if the truth is somewhere in the middle, doesn't really, to me, address the arresting power of the arresting image. That of a child in child's clothing that animates their wonder of a world of Spidey and his amazing friends, staring into the side of an SUV, seemingly not able to understand the reality that he is now standing in. That's a photo unaltered, and photos unaltered do not lie, and in this one, the truth physically hurts. Thank you for watching Breaking the News this week. We certainly appreciate you. Be safe this weekend.
To rally against ICE operations in downtown Minneapolis. Our Joe McCoy was out there and joins us now with more on how that whole event panned out.
Yeah, well, Jennifer, if anyone thought that these temperatures were going to stop Minnesotans from protesting ICE operations in the state, they were wrong. Organizers calling this a day of truth and freedom.
On the coldest day in 7 years, thousands of Minnesotans felt there was no more important place to be than outside.
We love our cold weather, and we love standing up for our rights.
Protesters gathering at Commons Park
and then marching through the streets of Minneapolis to Target Center, calling on ICE to leave Minnesota.
To say what you want about immigration policy needing to be reformed, but how it's being handled is not the right way. I work in Uptown near the corner of Lake and Lyndale. Every day I have been seeing ICE agents drive by in unmarked vans. I have been seeing community members crying. I've been seeing people ripped from their homes.
This march was part of today's proclaimed day of action, asking people to peacefully protest and avoid working, shopping, or going to school.
We have to be able to put a stop to this. So in every way possible that we know how, we are trying to get this to stop.
My best friend's daughter is at a dual language school, and half of her classmates and friends are too afraid to go to school. Her classroom size has diminished.
This comes a little over 2 weeks since Renee Good was shot and killed by an ICE agent, and protests have only continued to intensify.
My emotions have been anger, fear, depression, and seeing something like this, hope.
A hope that was carried inside Target Center.
Minnesota is being invaded by our own federal government. But you, my friends, our beloved community, Minnesotans, are not standing by silently.
Sadness and anger are the two emotions protesters said that they were feeling the most. They say it's about turning those feelings into peaceful action. Jennifer.
A lot of emotions all around there, Joe. Thank you. And today, around 100 people were arrested outside of MSP as part of a clergy-led protest against the federal immigration operations. Officials say that they were cited for trespassing, and video shows officers from several jurisdictions putting those people onto buses after their arrest. Local clergy is calling on airlines to support opposition.
All right, here we go. Here's the bonus clip for you. Bonus clip. That's right.
As if we needed further evidence that the Trump administration is actively trying to kill us. The Washington Post with exclusive reporting that a man in custody, a detainee in custody at an immigration detention camp in Texas, the El Paso County Office of the Medical Examiner now officially stating in an autopsy report that his cause of death is homicide. This is the actual language. Quote, based on the investigative and examination findings, it is my opinion that the cause of death is asphyxia due to neck and torso compression. The manner of death is homicide, end quote. Homicide. Not accidental death, but homicide. Now, those are the words of Adam C. Gonzalez, Deputy Medical Examiner for El Paso County. Now, an independent forensic pathologist who reviewed the autopsy report at the request of the Washington Post, Lee Ann Grossberg, said that the finding does not imply intent to kill, but rather that the victim's death was caused by another person. Now, that is according to an independent forensic pathologist. I will defer to the medical experience and wisdom of somebody who is a pathologist, which I am not. But I will tell you, as a prosecutor and as a lawyer, when you use the word homicide, again, it eliminates accident. It eliminates the idea that there was proper training and proper procedures used if somebody dies by way of asphyxia due to neck and torso compression. Now, who is the victim? His name is Geraldo Lunas Campos, a 55-year-old Cuban man who had been detained at this place called Camp East Montana, located in El Paso, Texas. Camp East Montana has been the subject of just outrageous stories of abuse, sexual abuse, improper conditions, just really bad shit. In fact, I'm going to cite to El País, a publication that just had the following released today. And the title of it, quote, The Black Hole of Camp East Montana. 3 deaths in 44 days at the largest migrant detention center in the United States. 3. Now, it is the largest detention center. It's actually a tent complex. So for those of you that think it's like, oh, it's a nice brick and mortar, it's a tent complex being operated by a private firm that has no prior experience in the field of operating these type of detention facilities. Of course, another sweetheart, maybe Tom Homan kind of sweetheart deal being given to people. Private firm, no prior experience, people making more money on the backs and the deaths of humans. This place, Camp East Montana, located in the desert surrounding Fort Bliss military base outside of El Paso. It's in the freaking desert. Okay. Now, I just told you about Gerardo Lunas Campos, the 55-year-old man from Cuba, who has deemed to have been the victim of a homicide while being housed at Camp East Montana. Lunas Campos, according to the Texas Trib, was a registered sex offender and convicted felon. He was taken into custody, and he, according to a press release from ICE on January 9th, ICE originally said that he died after, quote, experiencing medical distress. But then a week later, ICE changed its tune and instead said that he had died after attempting suicide and that ICE staff attempted to save him. Okay, but listen to this. DHS initially said that staff observed Mr. Lunas Campos to have been in distress, but gave no cause of death. This is the beginning of January. Then, in a recorded conversation that was reported by the Washington Post, an employee of the medical examiner's office told relatives of Lunas Campos that the office was likely to list the manner of death as homicide. After that recorded conversation between the ME's office and the family of Mr. Lunas Campos, suddenly Homeland Security comes out via its Assistant Secretary, Tricia McLaughlin. We all know and recognize who she is. McLaughlin now saying that Lunas Campos tried to take his own life and guards were trying to save him. Quote, Campos violently resisted security staff and continued to attempt to take his life. During that ensuing struggle, Campos stopped breathing and lost consciousness. End quote. Ensuing struggle, Campos stopped breathing and lost consciousness. End quote. Do you believe the bullshit that they're trying to sell? I don't. You want to know why I also don't believe it? Because a fellow detainee at Camp East Montana, a man by the name of Santos Jesus Flores, told the Post in a phone interview just last week that he saw guards at this detention facility choking Mr. Lunas Campos and heard Lunas Campos repeatedly saying, "No puedo respirar, no puedo respirar." In English, I can't breathe. Flores continuing to say that medical staff, on site at the facility tried to resuscitate Mr. Lunas Campos for an hour, and then they took his body away. Flores stating that Lunas Campos continuously said, I cannot breathe, and then after that, we don't hear his voice anymore, and that is it. So what is the Trump administration trying to do? The Trump administration has been trying to deport Mr. Flores, the eyewitness to the homicide of Mr. Lunas Campos, and another detainee who also provided an eyewitness account of the homicide of Mr. Lunas Campos. But a federal judge just 2 days ago, on Wednesday, granted a request by lawyers representing Mr. Lunas Campos' family to temporarily bar the deportation of those eyewitnesses that are also detainees. A senior U.S. District Court judge for the Western District of Texas stating in his order that deporting the men would make it harder to obtain the testimony of these witnesses, giving the difficulty of locating them once they've been deported and are abroad. So the judge has set a hearing for January 27th, which is next week, Wednesday, to determine whether these eyewitnesses will be able to provide testimony. Kind of makes you wonder what type of pressure and threats are going to happen to these men between now and January 27th. Do you think the Trump administration will suddenly, quote, accidentally deport them? Sorry, Judge. got deported, put these countries, can't find them. We're going to watch this carefully. At least 30 people died in detention in 2025 in ICE detention across the country. It is the highest number in 2 decades. In 20 years, it's the highest number. 30 people dying. Lunas Campos alone is one of 6 who died in the first 2 weeks of 2026.
I think. Even more.
We've had 2 weeks of 2026 people, and you've had at least 6 people die in ICE detention. On January 14th, a man by the name of Victor Manuel Diaz, also at Camp East Montana, died. The incident report saying it's, quote, a presumed suicide, but the official cause of death was under investigation. Want to know about Mr. Diaz? 36 years old, Nicaraguan, found unconscious in his room and pronounced dead at 4:09 p.m. Authorities declared it a suicide, although the official cause of death remains under investigation. Where did Mr. Diaz come from? He came from Minnesota, people. He was just recently detained in Minneapolis during that ICE surge that has just been going on there. And now he's dead. Dead. Taken into custody in Minneapolis, transferred to Texas, Camp East Montana, dead. 36 years old, Nicaraguan. Camp East Montana currently houses 2,900 people, but has the capacity to have 5,000. Another death just a few weeks ago as well, in December of 2025 there. Francisco Gaspar Andres, a 48-year-old Guatemalan, died at Providence East Hospital in El Paso. Authorities stating that the cause of death still under investigation. Remarkable, right? All of these causes of death still under investigation, but doctors think it's natural liver and kidney failure. But I have a but here. How is that possible, though? Because according to ICE, detainees must receive medical, dental, and mental health evaluations within 12 hours of arrival at each detention center. And they must be guaranteed a comprehensive health assessment during the first 2 weeks of their incarceration, as well as access to medical appointments and 24-hour emergency care. At no time during detention is emergency care denied to a detained, undocumented alien. And yet, if you were to believe what the government's trying to sell you, which is that Mr. Gaspar Andres died of natural liver and kidney failure, how is this happening if the man is getting medical attention that he is required to receive when he's in ICE detention? By the way, Mr. Lunas Campos, and for those of you that may come at me, because I did say that Mr. Lunas Campos is a registered sex offender and convicted felon, I am not passing judgment on whether being a registered sex offender and convicted felon means anything. Why do I say that? I'm not condoning being a sex offender or a convicted felon in any capacity. I'm just saying, if you are taken into custody, you shouldn't be dying. You shouldn't be the victim of a homicide when you're in ICE custody. That's not how it's supposed to work. ICE cannot serve as judge, jury, and executioner. That's not how the process goes. So don't come at me and be like, oh, Katie, shouldn't you be happy that a registered sex offender and convicted felon is now dead? No. No, that's not how it works. Camp East Montana, as I told you, is now being operated by a private firm that has no prior experience in running a tent complex of that size. It's a makeshift tent encampment. And again, I want people to understand, this is not a brick and mortar building that has been erected. So when you think of detention facilities or prisons, for example, no, it's not that. It's a tent encampment built on the Mexican border just last summer in 2025. Migrants have repeatedly reported substandard conditions and physical abuse. In fact, in September of 2025, ICE's own facility inspector said that Camp East Montana failed to properly monitor and treat detainees' medical conditions, and that was among dozens of other violations of federal detention standards, and that was according to documents that were obtained by the Washington Post. At that time, inspectors also said that Camp East Montana had no approved security policy either.
Hi, I'm YouTube, and on YouTube, you're not allowed to say words like...
Inspectors also said that Camp East Montana had no approved security policy either. Doesn't sound like a good place to be, does it? I want to get back to Mr. Lunas Campos with a little more specificity about what happened to him, because that is the one that has now been declared to have been a homicide. ICE initially stated that Lunas Campos was having medical distress while in isolation. That's the other thing. The guy was in solitary confinement. Lunas Campos in isolation after, quote, exhibiting destructive behavior while waiting in line for his medication and refusing to return to his assigned dormitory. ICE also claiming initially that medical personnel initiated life-saving measures, but that Lunas Campos was pronounced dead by emergency medical services. But then after the allegations of homicide surfaced because of that WAPO article, suddenly DHS stating that Lunas Campos tried to take his own life and that facility staff tried to stop him. And that's how he died. I can't breathe. I can't breathe. What does that remind you of? It reminds me of George Floyd, right? According to the ACLU, 32 deaths in ICE custody during 2025, as I mentioned, was the deadliest year for that agency in nearly 2 decades. And so the ACLU and other human rights groups in December sent a letter to ICE demanding an end to immigration detention there at Camp East Montana. They described a pattern of abuse, including beatings, sexual assault by officers, coercion through threats to force deportations to third countries, medical neglect, hunger, food shortages, and denial of access to legal counsel. You know that denial of access to legal counsel has become something that we have been hearing time and time again. If you are a detainee and you cannot access legal counsel, how are you supposed to be able to get out into the world what's happening to you there? How are you supposed to fight? How are you supposed to make sure that you get the due process if you're not even able to have access to counsel? I have to tell you, people, that it is horrific what we're watching happening right now in all of our cities, especially in the Twin Cities of Minneapolis and St. Paul, and what we've seen in Chicago and across our country. And the reason why I want to do this episode, though, is I wanted you to understand that it's not just how bad it is while you're taking them into custody and the horrors of what's happening while you're taking detainees into custody. They're getting killed. They're being murdered while in ICE custody. And because it's a black hole of information, impunity, right? There's no recourse for what these federal agencies are doing. We need Congress. I can't ask that the DOJ does anything because the DOJ is worthless. It's got no teeth. It's ineffective. It doesn't do shit for us. There's no such thing called civil rights for us anymore with this Trump administration DOJ. We have to keep on amplifying what is happening. We need people to be equally as horrified as to what is happening as we are. So take this episode and tell others to watch it. Tell others to subscribe so that they get the truth, because this is our duty. We must bear witness to the atrocities of this administration, and we have to do it by spreading the truth. And here's the truth. They're killing people in ICE detention. Be mad, be outraged, demand accountability. It's day 23 of 2026, and you know I'm doing that. Katie Fang here.
All right, with that said, I'm not here much out. Peace out. It's happy fuck the ICE Agents Day ×3, baby. That's right. The ball is shy. ICE out.